Chapter 2. This is the part I can't shake, Jamie paused. The same day I met Laurel Hargrove, I met another girl who would end up committing suicide. Only she died much sooner, by the end of her senior years. His voice caught again. Clementine Jonas was her name. Of course he remembered Clem. There was no way he had forgotten, given the circumstances. The truth is, Jamie continued, meeting them went poorly. Have you ever had an encounter that went so wrong you lay awake at night reliving it? Months later, when I heard Clementine committed suicide, I couldn't get in touch with my friend or get any details from the news. It was hushed up quickly, which at the time seemed reasonable. It's tragic, right? Someone that young, on the cusp of graduating and starting her life, about to get free. Get free? It was like Jamie was speaking to me in code. I thought of how he had met Clem and Laurel, what he had witnessed, and pressed a hand over my eyes, as if not looking could block the memories. How much about us had Jamie guessed? Now, this was years ago, he said, but I still remembered Clementine Jonas hung herself. That stuck with me, left an impression. So when I realized I had met Laurel, that she had been there the same day I had met Clementine, I thought, what are the odds of two of the three girls I have ever met from Whitney both hung themselves? I went digging into Clementine's death, looking for details. I couldn't find much, just one old flimsy police record that said her body was found on campus. But here's where it gets stranger. Not in her dorm. She was found in the Cargill Sports Center, which is Whitney's big athletic center. In other words, this girl was found just like Laurel in an eerie public place. They'd found Clem hanging in the women's showers, actually, fully clothed, her chin bent to her chest, fragile and limp as a broken dandelion, and a delicateness in death she would have hated in life. Clem had once been the star of a Whitney's women's soccer team, and Cargill had been a home to her as much as Performing Arts Center had been to Laurel. Had always thought she had done it there because it was the last place left where she felt safe. What we have, dear listeners, is a pattern. Now, I tried to find my old friend, the one who knew Clementine and Laurel back then, to see what she could tell me, but this friend had dropped off the face of the planet. He had tried to find me just for a show, but still, it was true. I had gotten new contact info after college. My articles were up on the slice under a pen name, and my work email was no longer active. I had no social media, and I was Shay Deroy now, not Shay Evans. I had bet anything Jamie had reached out to my mother, which meant she must have shielded me, respected my wish for privacy. It was entirely unlike her. I had run after college. I hadn't looked back, and still this had found me. I had pressed play on Jamie's episode like Cleopatra sliding this lid of the woven basket, unaware of the coiled asp inside. Two friends, Jamie said, who died in disturbingly similar ways. It could be a coincidence, I grant you. Suicides are more common than people think, especially among college students. And maybe the fact that Laurel and Clementine knew each other makes it even more likely Laurel's death was a suicide. A kind of contagion effect, but in super slow motion. I don't know, I just have a hunch the deaths are connected in a way I can't see. He was putting pieces together, but there was still so much Jamie didn't know. Case in point, a small painful detail no one knew except the people who had found Clem that day, and those of us close enough to her to hear the details of her death. Remembering made my skin flush, despite the air conditioning, a sensation I recognized as the beginnings of panic. Carved into Clem's forearm, I'd found thin, bloody letters spelling out, "I am sorry." They had never found the weapon, but there were small cuts on the fingers of her right hand in the places where she would have held a razor or a knife. It was clear she had carved the words herself, meaning it was obviously a suicide, right? 8 years ago, when I saw what Clem had done, I had accepted the truth immediately, recognized that it made a deep, awful kind of sense. It had been powerful enough to break through the fog of my mind, like a lifeline cast into the sea of my disordered thinking. It had shaken me, made me see sharp and clear again. And the worst irony, Clem's death had given me back my life. But now Laurel was dead the same way, in the same pattern, with razor blade marks all over her arms and her hands. Just no words. Jamie's voice returned to the kitchen, warm against the coat. The last thing I'll say before we take an ad break is that, in the absence of information about Laurel and Clementine, like I said, the police reports were thin and neither death received much media attention. I decided to widen my search and look at other women's deaths in the Hudson Valley area since Clementine died. You know, I'm always searching for patterns and I can be persistent. What I found was alarming. There has been a high, and I mean unusually high, number of missing persons reports for women aged 18 to 35 in the last 8 years. I gripped the phone so hard I thought for a moment I might shatter it. Why is there an 11% higher chance a woman will go missing in this region than any other place in America? 11% might not seem big, but it is, statistically. The area is an anomaly. Where are these women disappearing to? And why is no one paying attention? We are talking about an unsolved mystery right in my own backyard, and I had no idea until now. Research shows the only high-profile person to reference the disappearances is Governor Alec Barry, who vowed to investigate 2 years ago in his State of the State address. But his investigation doesn't seem to have amounted to much. When our pod producers talked to some of the women's families, most said they had given them up as runaways or suicides. So here's my transgression of the day, and it comes in the form of a question. Laurel and Clementine fall into the same age group, and their suicides, that's in air quotes by the way, essentially booking the years we have seen these other women go missing. According to a file, Clementine's parents called from their home in Wisconsin a few months before she died, trying to file a missing persons report, but the police dismissed it after they confirmed she was attending classes. And Lauren's mother told the police it had been years since she spoke to her daughter. Missing, then dead, missing, then dead. Could there be a connection between Laurel's and Clementine's deaths and these other women? It felt again like Jamie Knight was sending a private message to me, hidden in the podcast episode, and then it was no longer private. If anyone out there has information, big or small, email my producers. Another pause. Longer this time. If my friend from long ago ever hears this, the one who went dark, call me, please. My number is still the same. The next moment, Jamie's voice was replaced by a cheerful woman recommending a brand of rosé guaranteed to slim your waistline. I clicked out of the episode. Standing frozen in my bikini, surrounded by the gleaming white kitchen, I knew I was the wrong kind of a picture. An aberration in this home, this monument I had built to moving on. I could feel this displeasure. It wanted me calm and docile, and in my panic, I was disobeyed. Don't think like that, I told myself. Not everything is sinister. Not everyone has bad intentions. But I fled the kitchen anyway, sprinting upstairs to the master bedroom, straight to my walk-in closet, shutting the door to make the space tight and secure. I ripped off my bathing suit and pulled on stretchy pants and sweatshirt, wrapping myself in cover. These renegade thoughts were popping off more frequently whenever Cal went away on his work trips. In his absence, my mind churned, twisting my life into a more disappointing picture. The house didn't want me docile. That was ridiculous. I needed to stay calm and think. My phone buzzed from where it lay on the floor. Dan's face suddenly grinning up at me. I jumped, heart pounding, one hand pressed to my chest. I waited until the call died, then peered at the text flashing on the screen. You went to hunt out without me, such a betrayal. A stupid joke so divorced from the news of Laurel's death that I almost laughed at the sheer incongruity, except for the image that flashed in my head. Cal sitting in his hotel room at his laptop, poring over our credit card charges, checking my spending like I was a child, knowing where I had gotten my coffee this morning from hundreds of miles away. But he was only being responsible. Keeping the life we shared in order was a form of intimacy, wasn't it? Plenty of the Highland Park husbands managed their household finances. I forced myself to leave the closet, heading back downstairs, but the slap of my feet against the steps wasn't enough to drown out Jamie's voice. Laurel's death, Clem's memory. The ghosts had been unleashed, and now I couldn't stop seeing my life through their eyes. Couldn't escape the suspicion that if they saw me here in this cold, empty house, they'd shake me by my shoulders. Cal and I had gotten married a year ago, and everything had been fine until I'd quit my job 6 months ago. Then the balance of power had shifted. Cal would refuse to admit there was even such a thing as a balance of power between us. According to him, that wasn't how good marriages worked. And maybe he was right. Maybe I was too sensitive because of how I had grown up. Watching my mom contort herself to keep men around, or too paranoid because of what happened in college. Because every time I saw two people, I saw a scale tipping this way or that. And the scale had been tipped towards Cal for a long time. Oh, he would deny it, but now he held the purse strings. Now, every big decision was ultimately his. It had been 6 months of checked charges of attending fancy Highland Park parties on his arm, of insipid gossip and aching loneliness, of staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop's black screen. 6 months, and here was the truth. I wasn't a writer, I'd turned into a housewife. What would Laurel have said to that? Dear God, Clem. I looked up and caught my reflection in the window above the sink, raised fingers to my cheeks. I was crying, gentle tears tracking down my face. I hadn't even felt it start. I had trained myself to do this years ago, to cry effortlessly, elegantly, like a silent movie actress. But now that I was older, the tears had a habit of creeping up on me, arriving when I least expected. Maybe I had performed for so long I wasn't capable of recognizing my own feelings. Were there even such things, or was everyone always reacting in ways we understood we were supposed to? When did the performance ever end? Mentally, I slapped myself and bit my tongue as punishment. I ended when you were dead. For fuck's sake. When your body was found hanging from a tree, or a showerhead in the place you loved most. The place you used to sit for hours reading scripts, or where you were a star, your body flying strong and triumphant across the grass. It ended when you killed yourself, or when somebody killed you, and all your chances to wake and breathe and cry were stolen from you forever. When everyone who was supposed to love you brushed your death aside, and the only one who cared to look deeper was a stranger, a true crime podcast host. But I cared. That was the truth. I couldn't shake. The one that followed me no matter where I hid, staring back from every mirror, screen, and window. I had sequestered myself in a safe, faraway place, and still the past had found me. Now I had a choice. I could almost see myself making the decision, as if I were floating outside my own body. I would not let Laurel and Clem disappear into the fog of forgotten people. I had told Laurel I would protect her, and instead I had run. I had promised Clem I would stick by her, and yet I had chosen wrong when it counted. I had failed too many women. I would not leave this to Jamie Knight, even if he was more qualified. I would go back to New York and I would find out what happened to Laurel. I would trace the contours of her life since I couldn't hold her hands. I would pick up her memory and cradle it. I would wish my apologies. I would kneel on my hands and my knees in the place where she had died, and I would repent. If it was true someone had hurt her, if someone had killed her, then I would find out who and I would protect her. Years too late. The only way I could. I clutched my phone and sprinted back upstairs through the master bedroom to the walk-in closet where my suitcase stood dunked and waiting in the corner.